Let's begin by working with some basic data types in the Ruby language. We'll work with numbers and strings. So make sure you're in your practice.rb file. And I want to show you something here. So if I were to write 2 plus 2, the Ruby can actually calculate this and execute this for us. Now if I hit save and I execute this file, you'll notice that we won't see any results here. So if I write practice.rb and then I hit enter, you're not going to see the result. It did get executed in memory, but we're not going to see the result. The only way to see that result is by putting this special Ruby command here, puts, in front of it. And now if we run this, and remember I can just hit the up arrow on my keyboard and hit enter, you'll see there we go, the result is showing. Now you could also do print, but the main difference between print and puts is that you won't get a new line. So we'll stick with puts for now. So we can output just basic numbers, and think about it like this. When you're building out a Ruby on Rails application, you are going to be working with numbers. Let's say you are building, a tip calculator for a restaurant, or you are selling products on your website and you need to add in tax. That's where this kind of basic usage of numbers and basic operations like addition, subtraction will come into play. So we can do basic addition like this. We can also do subtraction and get like a negative result from that. We could do multiplication and use an asterisk to do that. So let's just save the file now and look at some of this output here. And there you go. We have 4 for this result. We've got a 1 here from that result. And sorry, I meant to show a negative result from that. So if I do 3 minus 4, and then we've got the 9 from that calculation. So if I do that, there you go. You've got your negative result as well. So we can also do division. But now notice that we get a 0 for this result here. And the reason why is that one of these values needs to be a floating point value in order to see more than just a whole number. So by default, these results are going to be whole number results from Ruby. If we want to see a floating point result, either one of these numbers needs to have a decimal next to it. And that goes for any of these operations. So as long as we have a decimal next to it, we will see the floating point result. And there you go. Now we have 0.75 coming from 3 divided by 4. So, and you could put it to either number, like I said, and you'll get that result. So that's a little bit about numbers. Now keep in mind you can do more advanced mathematic operations by going to, you can read about it by Googling the words Ruby and math. And then you'll find this great website here. It's ruby-doc.org. And it's hard to read at first, this website is. It's a little intimidating, but you'll get used to it over time, and you'll see that there are a lot of code examples here. So, for example, you could kind of look at this methods column when you're on the math page and see what kind of math methods there are from the Ruby math module. So, for example, if we wanted to do square root, we could kind of imitate what they're doing right here to get that result. And if we go back to nitrous and say, remember we need puts in front of it. So math, square root, and then say the square root of 4, we should see 2. And there we go. We have the result for us. Now let's work with strings a little bit. So to work with strings, all you have to do is wrap some text or even a number inside quotation marks. So you could say something like this. So that's how you work with strings. And sometimes you'll need to output strings from your actual Ruby program, like message confirmations and things like that. So to see this in the actual console, we just put puts in front of it, and there you go. It'll output the string nice and clean. And we can also, like I said, work with numbers inside of strings. But keep in mind, this is classified as a string and not a number because it's inside the quotation marks. And there is an important distinction there. Now, we can also put strings together with what we call string concatenation. And you could do something like this, and the way you combine two or more strings together is just with a plus sign in between. Now keep in mind this is going to look a little funky in the spacing, so when I execute this code, you'll see that there's no space between hello and I'm. And the reason why is because these strings are literal. You need to have a space either here or a space on this side. One of the sides would need the space for it to execute properly. So now, since we have a space right there, if I run this, you'll see we've got a string that displays a little bit better. So that's a little bit about numbers and strings.